This
and putting on
conference will
recording
now be
system.
recorded.
Um, so where we are recording this session, it will be put on our website. But again, Department of Developmental Services has authorized a new program. It went into the law and it's effective as of yesterday that will allow you and your staff who are involved with direct care to clients. It has to be direct care. It can't be administrative staff. People who are doing the books can't do it. Yeah, but they can get up to $1,300 a year in stipend, and it would be for 1 year, and it will expire on in June of 2024. So anybody who wants to get additional training and be paid for it and meets the requirements that the Department of Developmental Services sets up, which mainly is that you are providing direct care for at least a minimum number of hours a week to clients to be able to get the stipend. And you can read more of that once the directive comes out specifically from Kern Regional Center, which hopefully will be out in the next few days. I happened to get an advance copy of it, so I did get to see that. But look forward to receiving from the state a directive that will allow you to be funded specifically for the services that you're providing. The training that your staff take will be reimbursed if they take the training through the Department of Developmental Center's online website. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and start the program today, which is my slides. Now, we're going to talk about the home and community-based services waiver. So we oftentimes use the abbreviation HCBS. HCBS stands for Home and Community-Based Services. Home and community-based services came about years ago when the federal government decided that it didn't make sense to have people in state hospitals, in large institutional settings, that the best place for people was in the community, in small group homes, in day programs, in working. And so there was a major change that was made to the system to really focus on providing direct care services to individuals. Okay, so in 2014, the federal government, which pays about 50 cents on a dollar for the services that you provide, said, we want to go ahead and come up with some new rules that will change the way we fund services to individuals who live in residential care homes, who go to day programs, who are in vocational programs. So they came out with what they called the final rule. So you may have seen at times something that says home and community-based waiver final rule. And that's what we're talking about. It originally came out in March of 2014. It was supposed to be implemented by March of 2019. Because it was very large and very complex, the federal government said, okay, we're going to give people more time, and then they shifted it to 2021. Then along came COVID in 2020, and the federal government said, wait a minute, everything is, so up in arms right now. Programs are closed. Clients who are living in residential care facilities are basically quarantined. People aren't really utilizing the community at this point. So we're going to put a delay on it. So they ended up delaying the need for states to come into compliance with the new federal home and community-based waiver rules until March 17th, 2023, last March. California, for the most part, did come into compliance in paper. And many of you worked with either Leslie or me or both of us on your plan and got it got sent back maybe once or twice, and you had to do some rewrites, and there was some, and we provided some technical assistance and what have you, and you got your plans in, and the plans were approved. Okay, that's your paper plan. Now what you need to do is to move from your paper plan to making sure that the services that you provide meet those plans. So what you put on the paper and what you're doing need to be in compliance. And the federal and California asked for an additional year to make sure that all the plans that were approved are being implemented. So that's where we are now. We're in the process of trying to make sure that everybody is doing what they say they're doing, and they're moving towards meeting these final rules that the federal government put out there. So California now has until March of 2024 to make sure that all of its providers meet the requirements. At that point in time, the federal government may come down and start telling California, hey, you're going to have to go out to these homes, take a look, make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing. Or you also have to go out to these day programs, to these vocational sites, take a look. I mean, the folks said they're going to be meeting all these new rules. Are they meeting those rules? If you're meeting the rules, great. You'll get an attaboy, attagirl, and we'll move on from there. If you're not, you will get a corrective plan, and you'll have to meet that plan. If you don't meet that plan, there will be sanctions. Now, what those sanctions will be, we're not entirely sure. Past, they did when this came up once before, they said that they were going to go towards non-referral, which means you would not get any new clients in your facility. And as people left, or or if you had a vacancy in your home or in your day service or your vocational regional center would say, sorry, we can't put anyone in there because you don't meet the new requirements. In addition, there is the possibility that the federal government could say, wait a minute, you signed a document saying that you were going to meet the new set of rules that are out there because you've agreed that you're a Medicaid waiver provider, and as a Medicaid waiver provider, you have to meet the rules in order to get the money. I sometimes use an old joke that my boss told me years ago, which was there's something called the golden rule that we all know. Well, he changed it. He said those who have the gold make the rules. And in this case, the federal government is paying about 50 cents for every dollar of the service that you provide. So if you're a residential provider, and let's say your rate is $4,500 a month, well, of that 4,500, 2,250 of that is coming from the federal government. 2,250 is coming from the state of California. The federal government could reserve the right to say we're no longer going to pay our half of that cost of the program. In which case, then California would either have to say, okay, we'll make up the difference, which I doubt very much that they would do, or you as a provider would lose potentially lose half of your income if they allow you to continue to stay open. That's why it's so important that you meet these rules from a perspective of being a business owner or being involved in working in this field. But I think there's even a bigger reason to meet these rules. These rules are set up so that clients have dignity in their life, that they're part of the community, that we make a commitment to the people that we serve that we're going to do right by them. So my feelings are the main reason we want to meet these rules is because we want to do the right thing for people. But we also are concerned about our business. I mean, it's a win-win if we do it right. We stay in business, we do a good job working with the clients, and the clients' lives are more satisfactory, and they're more like you and I in terms of what they receive and do. Recently, and I don't know if any of you attended that, but we had a gentleman by the name of Tom Pomerantz, who was a national expert. And one of the things that he continually said over and over again is, when you're doing things with people, think about it. Would you want somebody to do that for you or to you? So we want to do the same. We want to treat people the same ways that we would want to be treated. Okay, so again, I mentioned at the beginning of this, today's presentation is primarily for providers who do day services, day programs, and vocational. So the slides that I'm about ready to start showing you are about that topic. Next week, we will be having one specifically to residential. But if you are a residential provider and you are on the call today, you can still get the CEUs because this is a topic that you can continue to be involved with. And so go ahead and, stay with us if you'd like. And again, if you want the CEUs, you have to contact Irene at the end of the presentation or the next day or two. Send her a paragraph of 3 things that you learned from this presentation, and we will send you the CEUs. Okay, so what we're really trying to do is really trying to transform planning and training. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to move to a new look in how we do services for people. And we want to restructure employment and day services to focus on competitive integrated employment. Now, competitive integrated employment is a direction that both the federal government and the state of California is really, really pushing for. That they think, and we agree, that individuals should be involved in work, just like you and I are involved with work, and not necessarily work in a workshop where they're with a bunch of other clients, maybe 1 or 2 people working in a business, doing the job that somebody else would do if they weren't doing it. So the big push, and will be continually be the big push in years to come, is to move people into regular jobs, getting paid minimum wage or above, basically what we refer to as the prevailing wage. So whatever the wage is for that particular profession, they should be paid that wage or better. And that's sort of the main direction, and you will hear this quite a bit: competitive integrated employment. Now, for those of you who are involved in the system, we have an alphabet soup, and everything has something that we abbreviate. And so for this, you may hear CIE. CIE is competitive integrated employment, and it's a big push for the state of California and the federal government. Okay, that the next thing that really we want to try to do is we want to transform from facility-based to community-based services. Now, again, we're talking about day and vocational. Obviously, a residential care facility is not going to be a community service. I mean, you'll do your interactions in the community, but you're basically set up to be a service in your home. So it really is dependent on the type of service that you provide. But we really were trying to move people from a getting on a bus in the morning, going to a site, spending the day at that site, and then taking a bus home at the end of the day. Because then what happens is that person doesn't have a lot of time, if any, with people in the community. So all of the staff are the only people that are with the clients, and they're paid to be with the clients. So they're not really interacting with people in the public. So we want it so that our clients are much more involved in the community and involved with activities that are community-based services so that they are part of the community. There is a program that's been around for many years, since actually the 1930s, and it was originally developed for veterans of World War I who came back from the war and had significant injuries. That is where you can pay someone less than minimum wage for their work. It's called sub-minimum wage. We here at BARC had a program like that for many years. We've discontinued it, but what you do is you study somebody and see how fast they can work. So if it's a job where you're putting bolts in a bag, and then you seal that bag, and then you put it in a box, and then that box ends up going to Home Depot where they put it on the shelf. So you're the ones who put together the bolts for that product. How many can you do in an hour? So if I did 100 and you did 40, you'd get 40 cents for every dollar that I got. Many people feel that that's discriminatory to treat people with disabilities as less than and to pay less. This is somewhat controversial because some people's production is lower and they, in many cases, would have challenges meeting production levels in a job. So the whole idea behind this is that you need to be creative and look for and try to develop employment opportunities for people based on their skills, what they can do, and find opportunities so that people can work productively and at a level that would, the employer is, comfortable with. So that's a really a big move in the vocational area. And in California, we're probably looking at doing away with um, anyone making less than minimum wage who's developmentally disabled by 2025. The California legislature has approved the bill. It's moving forward. The State Developmental Disabilities Council has been working. I was on the task force that was involved with that towards the elimination. So it looks like it's on target at this point so that there will not be anyone in California making less than minimum wage who's working who is developmentally disabled by the year 2025. And there aren't that many left. There's a couple thousand people across the whole state. Okay, we want to look at developing and expanding employment programs. So, there's a division at Kern Regional Center, one of Leslie's counterparts, whose job it is to just work with the day programs to get them involved with more employment. So if you're a residential provider and you have somebody living in your home that's going to a day program, and they come home and they say to you, well, now they're trying to get me to go out in the community and work, you'll know why, because we're really approaching the programs and saying, wait a minute, we need to be about work, not about sitting and doing activities in a site-based program. So work is really the big push. And we're also looking at really transitioning programs, looking at programs that are out there and seeing how we can move them from what they've been doing up until now for many, many years. And this is not to say that people haven't been doing good work. People have been doing good work. The problem is the philosophy has changed. What our expectations? When you don't have a great deal of expectations for someone, they don't necessarily do a lot. But if you have a higher expectation for someone, in most cases, people rise to those expectations. So our idea is that people with developmental disabilities we should really look at their strengths, look at their potential, and then work towards those strengths and potentials and really focus on that rather than focusing on their diagnosis or their disability. And so that's really the direction that we're moving with services. Now, what I want to do, oops, okay. So what are some of the things, whoops, I'm sorry, moved too far. So we're looking at doing training and field-based technical assistance. Discovery and assessment is our tools where we really look at every client and look at what their strengths and abilities are, what they like, what they don't like, what would somebody be good at. So when you're talking to a client and they say, I don't really want to work as a janitor. I don't want to be sweeping. I don't want to work with filth. I don't want to be cleaning toilets. Then we don't want to place that client in a situation where they're doing janitorial work. I'd rather be sitting in an office, sorting paper or delivering mail to people's offices or doing whatever. So we really need to do a process of assessing the person, finding out a good person assessment, which is, again, for those of you who are involved with this, the individual program plan, which gets written up every year by the regional center. You're sitting in there, the client's sitting there. It's all about what's important to and what's important for that individual. Where do they want to go? What would they like to see with their life? So we need to be looking at how we move forward for that person in terms of the plan we develop, and then once we develop a plan, then how we then implement that plan to make sure that that client's goals are being met through the planning process and through the services that we provide. Um, Employment engagement, we need your day programs. If you're a day program or a vocational program, you're now starting to go out and talk to employers, to engage them, to ask them, okay, what would you like in your setting? Would you be willing to hire someone who has a developmental or intellectual disability in your workplace? And here are some of the advantages of doing that, and these are some of the benefits, and these are some of the skills that this individual has that you could really that could really benefit your company and your community, and then also help this individual obtain employment. Um, Customized employment's another area that we're really looking at. Customized employment is where we create a job for somebody, something that nobody's ever done before, but we're starting to do this for a company. Or there's also clients who are starting their own businesses. We've had clients who have made jewelry or candles or socks or other things that have opened up a little. We had one client open up a little kiosk where he was selling hot dogs at college baseball games. So we really are looking at how do we develop job opportunities for individuals. Now, if you have clients who are in your day program, or you are a residential provider and you're sending clients off to a program during the day, they're getting on the bus and going off to the program. That program is supposed to be meaningful. What are they doing during the day? Are they teaching skills and community to that individual, or are people sitting there watching videos or getting out coloring books and doing things or sorting paper or things that really don't have value to that person's life? So what would be an example of that? Okay, maybe volunteering at the food bank. So a group of clients would go and help put peas in a box, so that and then move it down to the next person. The next person puts maybe a can of beans in the box, and so we're doing an activity that has meaning to both that client. It's teaching them a work skill, and it's also benefiting the community. Going out in public, buying food at a restaurant, ordering food at the restaurant, going to a movie theater and buying your ticket, maybe buying some refreshments, sitting appropriately in your seat while the movie is going, not talking to others. These are skills that are beneficial and meaningful and really benefit the individual over the long haul. So that's what we really are focusing. Family engagement. I was always amazed when I did direct service, how many clients, especially those who live in residential settings, the families aren't that involved. We want to try to get families involved in people's lives. All of us have families, and like in my case, we get together on a regular basis. My kids, the extended family, other folks. We that's part of my social circle. That's part of who I am. Is not only is it my wife and I, but it's our kids, it's our other people who are really actively involved in our lives and continue to be in our lives. So we want to try to encourage that for our clients too, because that's part of community, is being part of a family. And again, I mentioned earlier self-employment, that we do have some clients, not a whole lot, but that have actually developed their own businesses and are doing the enterprise where they're working. We had one gentleman, unfortunately, he ended up moving out of the area, but he used to run the gift shop at the heart hospital. It was his business. Yeah, and we've had, like I said, hot dog carts, somebody making candles, jewelry, a number of other things where people have developed their own a greeting card. A person was making hand painted greeting cards. Uh, so that's another area. And then we want to support people. So if we get our clients to work, we want to help them and make them successful. How many of you on a given day have gotten up in the morning and said, I feel like dirt. I don't really want to go to work today. Yeah. But you get up and you go anyway because you know you have to. People are relying on you. It's important that you do the job. You need to. You know, the paycheck's important. You don't have a lot of sick leave. Whatever the reason, you do it. Well, for many of our individuals, developing those skills are important, and they need help with developing the skills necessary so that they can be good employees. So, being on time, groomed appropriately. Does the person come to work being presentable? And then good work ethic during the workday. Do I sit here while I'm providing this webinar and get on my cell phone and talk to my wife about what we're going to have for dinner tonight, or do I focus on what's important now and provide the training? So people make sure that people don't get distracted, that they're appropriate in the workplace, that they're socializing. So supporting people as they go to work, because the work is new for many of our clients. Historically, clients either went to a day program, so they went to a program during the day, or they went to a workshop where they worked as part of a large group of other clients with supervisors right there during the day. And so working in a business is different, and we need to acknowledge that and to support people so that they can be successful. And it's important because we want the client to be successful because it's their ego, and we want them to feel like they're important, and what they're learning and doing and getting a paycheck is good for them. But we also want it's good for the employer. So if we put somebody out at a work site and the client does a very poor job or doesn't show up or creates a problem, that employer is probably not going to ask us for another individual for their workplace. They're going to say, no, we tried that program through Bakersfield ARC, and it was not a good fit for our business. So thank you very much, but no thank you. So we really want to make sure we support people so that they do well in the setting. Now, what I'd like to talk about next is what we've done at Bakersfield ARC. We decided a few years ago. So 2014 came along. The Fed said, got to have it done by 2019. And so we started really in about 2016. So about 2 years into the new rules, we started looking at making the shift to the new type of program. Many of you have just done it within the last year when the DDS and current regional centers come out to your program and said, hey, you got to make this change, or you're not going to be in business anymore. We took a longer approach, but then we have administrative staff. We have people who've been in the field for many years, and we sort of are involved with what's going on in Sacramento. We have a lobby, so we have more. I think we have more resources. So we set a vision. We decided that we wanted to make the changes so that we would be in tune with the new rules when the new rules went into effect. Now, when I say this, I'd love to say that we're 100% compliant with everything. But, if Leslie or one of her staff came out here tomorrow, they'd probably find something that, we weren't doing exactly right, or we'd agree to disagree that, how we're doing the particular program, So that's not a problem. What you want to do is you want to make, it's the effort that you're making. It's the attempts that you're doing. It's the justifications that you're using for doing what you're doing that's important, so that we can look at why it is that you're meeting, or how it is that you're meeting the new rules. So we had a change in director, so that made a difference. The new person came in. But where I did was I worked with the people who were really going to be doing the work. In our case, we have directors, middle level managers, DSPs. For many of you, it's just you and your DSPs. In some cases, it's just you. So you need to look at who needs to be making the changes. So in our case, if I figured if I worked with our middle level managers and got them on board, then they would be talking with the direct the care professionals, the DSPs, and really implementing the new look. And you know what? We lost some people. We had some staff who said, you know what? I like doing it the old way. I like the classroom setting. I like having the clients come, sitting them in my classroom. I like working with them in here at the center. And I don't really want to go out in the community. I don't want to be getting on, taking a group of 5 or 6 clients, going out in the community, doing an activity during the day. That's just not who I am. I'm much more better at doing the classroom thing. So some of those people left, Lisa, and it was a change that we were committed to. And if people weren't committed to it, we parted ways, hopefully amicably. And then we also, in our case, we got some grants from DDS to help us make some of the changes. Most of those grants are done with now, but if there are any additional funds that become available, Leslie will be sending out notices so that if you may keep an eye out for that, because there may be some money out there to help you with making some of those changes in the future. Can't guarantee that there will be or won't be, but stay tuned. Okay, so what we did at Bakersfield ARC was we closed our sheltered workshop. So we had a center where people would come every day and they would sit at a bench and would disassemble something, would put together something. We cut plastic into different sizes for folks. We did mass mailers so that some of that junk mail that you get that's in envelopes. We did the folding. We put together the envelopes, got it ready to go to the post office. We did a number of different jobs. We were the largest recycler in Kern County. Out there on South Union, we had a big center where we both when you take your containers to the place behind the grocery store, they would take it to us. We also worked with the city of Bakersfield, and when you put out your blue can, those would be coming to us, and we would be just sorting all of the different products and making it so that we would do recycling. And then we also had a day program where people would come and learn, hopefully, skills about the community. But learning skills about the community in a classroom and learning skills about the community in the community are very different. And so we changed that. We closed it. We ended up we had 25 acres out there on South Union. We sold the whole campus, sold it in 3 parts. Part of it to the city, part of it to a group called Field, which does works with United Farm Workers and migrant workers to develop a better educational and vocational opportunities, and then to a trucking company. So we sold our campus off in 3 different pieces. And then we committed to phasing out all of the clients who were working for us but weren't making minimum wage. So anybody that made less than the minimum wage, which is currently $15.50, unless you have a smaller facility, in which case there are some exceptions. We said we're going to stop that, and we did. So at the end of last calendar year, we ended that. What it did do, and this has got some controversy in it, there were some clients who could work if they were being paid $8, $9, $10 an hour when minimum wage was 15. But now that we're paying everybody 15, we couldn't get the job site to go along for it. So, for example, we had some janitorial crews who would go out and clean buildings. Well, when we went back to the company and said, "Hey, we need to charge you more to clean this building because now we have to pay our people this amount of money. Some of them said, balked and said, no, we'll find somebody else to do the job. And so some clients lost their jobs because of the change to minimum wage. We've been trying to be creative and find other employment opportunities for them, but there are some that we still have not been able to employ it. So they're involved with our day services, or they went to other providers. And so there is some controversy in the whole idea of doing away with sub-minimum wage, although, like I said, it's going to happen by 2025 here in California. And then we restructured all of our group employment. So we had some clients who worked in teams of 3 or 4. So like, for example, if you're driving down to LA after this meeting today and you stop at the rest stop up at Lebec, you'll see that crews from Bakersfield ARC are the ones who are cleaning that rest stop and are maintaining it and doing the yard work there and keeping the toilets clean and the grounds policed and dealing with the trash. That's group employment. And so we're doing it now. So where we had some of it was done, on site, like for example, the recycling and some of that, we got rid of all that. And now any group employment we do, it's all in the community, consistent with the new set of rules that are out there for home and community-based services. We went ahead and developed the position of a transition coordinator, somebody, because we're larger. If you're a small facility or a group home, this is not something that you need to do. But the idea behind it was somebody that could help us move things forward, could look at the way we were doing things and try to figure out, wait a minute, is that consistent with the new rules? State of California came up with a new program a number of years ago. Actually came up with it in 2008 during the recession, called Tailored Day Services, and no one here in Kern had done it. So we started doing it in 2000, where it's instead of going to a day program, somebody gets a 1-on-1 instead of a ratio of 1-4, 1-6, 1-8 during the day. Somebody gets 1-to-1 to meet individual goals. So we started looking at clients who needed some additional assistance to really get into the workplace, and we would focus on what those goals were. So if it was learning about, like I say, work ethic, what's proper attire, what's good hygiene, what's what the company is going to expect from you in terms of attendance, those sort of things, writing a resume, doing interviews. We have a software program that we bought that has 2,000 jobs, and somebody can virtually go onto a job and see what it's like to be doing that job. So when we're doing assessments on clients to see whether they like a particular sort of thing or not, they can try it out, through the computer, kind of like playing a game almost, and see if that's a job that would be something that they would like. Paid internship is another type of program that the state and the federal government is really pushing, and that we've embraced here as part of our change to the new look. And paid internship is where somebody can get up to a little over 1,000 hours in a year, where all the costs related to that employee are paid for by through a purchase of service. So there's no cost to the employer. All the not only the wages, but all the withholding, the workman's comp, all of that is paid for by a third party. So there's really no obligation to the employer. Hopefully, at the end of that 1,000 hours during that year, the employer will hire the client because they've learned the job on the job. But even if the employer doesn't hire, the clients learn some work skills, and they now can put something on their resume in terms of the work that they've done previously. So it's a program that is moving people into employment, kind of like a bridge in between no employment skills and fully employed. Here's a program in between where somebody can get an internship. Um, we have some of our individuals who are decided for whatever reason, or because that's the job we found, they're only working part time. So we're doing some individuals who are on some days of the week. They're involved with going out into the community and doing activities out in the community. And then some days of the week they're doing work. So it's a hybrid where they're doing some of one and then doing some of the other, and with the goal of trying to eventually, hopefully, get them fully towards the work direction. And then we've also been really focusing on trying to get people into community integrated employment with an employer. In many cases, we sort of go behind the individual and spend a certain number of hours at the work site helping them and the employer sort of interface and get to know each other, and how that job is done. And but then with the idea of phasing down or phasing out over time, so that the client will then eventually just be an employee of that company and without any assistance at all. And then finally, competitive integrated employment is where we, are working with people who are uh, fully employed. We have here at Bakersfield ARC a peer mentor, a client who works full time, who then comes in and works a second job here at BARC, and he goes out and talks to clients about what it's like to work in the community, and what that means for you. Um, One of the things that we find that's really important is what we call informed choice, which is where individuals get to make decisions about their own life. But in order to do that, you got to know what's out there. And I've shared this example before. Years ago, I assisted when there was a big movement to move people from state hospitals, state developmental centers to the community. And we would go up to, say, Porterville was one of the big ones for this area. We'd go up to Porterville and we talk to the individuals who live there. And we would say things like, well, do you want to live in a small group home? Do you want to live in a family home? Do you want to live in a supported living? What type of living arrangement would you like to live in? Well, that individual probably was living at Porterville for the last 20, 25 years. They had no idea what I was talking about when I would sit there and say, well, these are your choices. Because what they always knew was Porterville. And so what we found over a period of time is we actually started doing field trips. So when we started looking at an individual to bring out in the community, we had them come out and try 2 or 3 different types of living arrangements. Hey, we spend the weekend here, spend the weekend here, spend the weekend, and then let's come back and let's talk about which one of the ones that you like the best, so that they had information that was helpful for them to make the choice. So just like when you go to the doctor and and the doctor says to you, "I want to do this procedure, and these are the benefits for him having this procedure done, but there's a 1 in 20,000 chance that you might develop a severe rash." Okay, and then you sit there and you think about it and you say, well, gosh, I think that getting this procedure is much more important than the potential of developing a rash. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's informed choice. The doctor is telling you that these are the benefits, these are the risks. You make the choice, and that's something that we really need to do more of our clients. Instead of saying, you really want to do this, don't you? Or these are the choices, but don't tell them what those choices are. Then it doesn't have a lot of meaning. When we first started asking people, we want to go out in the community and take you out places, where would you like to go? The two places that people told me and my staff that they wanted to go most often were, well, three: Valley Plaza, Dollar Tree, and Walmart. And the reason for that was because that's what they knew. If their provider, if their group home provider or their day program took them someplace, they oftentimes took them to the Valley Plaza and had them walk around the mall, or they took them to Dollar Tree to buy dollar items, or so getting people, taking people to different places and showing them what's out there in the community, and then asking them, of these 8, 10 places that we've been to, where would you like to go, is very different than either just asking them or telling them this is what we want to do. So informed choice is a very important part of any program you want to do. We found doing nonprofit volunteer work is a really good opportunity for our clients to develop some work skills. And so for those clients who are still in a program during the day, so they're not going to doing things like, we have one group that goes out to calm the animal, the zoo out there by Hart Park, and does some cleanup and assisting around the grounds on a couple times a week. We've had crews go to the food banks, to other resources here in the community to assist with some of the vital work here in this community. So that's a direction that we've really gone to. And then we redesigned all of our documents and our program designs, which many of you had to do when you had to meet the HCBS. That when you were working with Leslie or working with me, we would send you back something saying, wait a minute, this isn't specific enough, or this isn't community based, or this really doesn't address the answer to this question. Or hey, that's great. What you just sent to us really shows that you have a good focus and understanding of this issue. So we did a lot of work in redesigning what we do. And then we finally got what was called a certified benefits counselor. Certified benefits counselor, and we're in the process right now of looking at getting vendor through the regional center. As clients start working, it affects their public benefits. So if somebody is receiving SSI, which almost all of our adult clients are, the Social Security Administration looks at work that someone's doing and makes decisions about whether they're still entitled to benefits. Are they now gainfully employed, or are they disabled but working with assistance? They have a number of different criteria that they use in terms of looking at that. In most cases, those clients who are working in one of these programs, but not all. So I don't want to, every case is individual with Social Security. So you need to have somebody go over it with the particular individual, and that's what a benefits counselor can do. But in most cases, clients can make $65 in a month and have it not affect their Social Security. Above that, the Social Security Administration takes out $1 for every two that they make. So if somebody makes $200 in a month, for 65 doesn't count. Next $35 in that up to 100, they take out 17, and then they take out 50 out of the next 100. So that client has $67 taken out of their Social Security, but they've made 200, so there's still $33 ahead in their earnings. So that's an important thing too. But it also sometimes prevents clients from wanting to work. So if they think that somehow their benefits will be eliminated or reduced, some clients either don't want to work, or they say, I only want to work part-time, I don't want to work full-time, or I need my hours reduced because my benefits got reduced. These days, there are ways that we can work with people to make sure that we maximize what they get as a public benefit, including Medi-Cal, which is very important because we want to make sure we keep people's healthcare going, and also to get their main source of income, which is Social Security disability. At this point, that's my presentation. Again, I want to reiterate a couple things today. One is that if you want continuing education credit for this particular presentation, you need to send to Irene a, a brief email with 3 things that you learned today, and then she will send you out your certificate. It's IARELLANO at bakersfieldarc.org for anybody who needs her address. Or you can call us afterwards and we'll give you the information. And so if you want the continuing education, you got to do that. Next week, for those of you who are residential providers, the presentation will be much more focused on residential issues as they relate to HCBS. And these will be going on twice a month, every month, once a month for residential providers, once a month for day program providers. We will be sending out a monthly newsletter. It will be in the newsletter. Leslie sends out reminders as well about courses. We're going to be sending out blasts periodically, so you should be getting regular updates on this. In addition, there will be a monthly topic that I will be presenting on related to developmental and intellectual disabilities and specifics to the areas that you're working with. The grant is specific to home and community-based waiver final rule services, but so much of someone's day is all about community and integration and privacy and a number of other issues that the topics that we will cover will be a little bit broader than just HCBS alone. And then the last thing I have, I mentioned this at the beginning of the presentation. Stay tuned. You will be receiving something from Kern Regional Center shortly. The state just announced yesterday a stipend program so that for direct service professionals, DSPs, who are working for you, they can take a series of online courses and receive 2 stipends of $650 each. So there are requirements as to who can qualify for that. So administrative staff, people who are not doing direct service are not eligible for that, but people who are doing direct services, there's one that's a series that's on the ethics of being a DSP, and then there's some specific topics that they're going to be covering as well. And starting right now, it's open and will be open until the June of next year. So if somebody wants to take those courses and get an extra $1,300, it is taxable money, but that will be available. But like I say, only to direct support professionals. And with that, and if you have a question, just open up your mic and go ahead.
Oh, Jeff, I did want to add that a lot of the strategies that you speakers
Leslie, you're breaking up a little bit. If you're not, please turn off your mic. Okay, try again, Leslie.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Oh, much better, great. So I was just gonna re-highlight some of the changes that Bakersfield ARC did. So in the last 2 slides of your presentation, you mentioned a lot of strategies that day programs could include, as well as employment services too. So if you guys have any questions about like the employment services, Jamie Patino is great in helping you understand a little bit more about the competitive integrated employment opportunities, the paid internships. She could help with providing you a lot of those information. Usually she jumps on these calls. So if you guys would like her contact information, please feel free to reach out and I can help provide that to you. But I just want to reiterate, these are a lot of great strategies you could implement in your services if you dive into looking into it a little bit more, as well as the trainings that you mentioned in another slide too. So if you guys ever have questions on that, you could reach out to me as well. Right.
Thank you, Leslie. Other questions or concerns that anybody has? And again, if you want the CEUs, they're not automatic. You got to send something to Irene saying what you learned today, and then if you receive that, she will then go ahead and send that out to you. Because I know some of you need the CEUs for both KRC and for licensing, and we're happy to help you out. We're pretty prompt about getting those out. We just need to make sure that you provide us with the information that we need, that you actually benefited from this class. Curtis, you have something?
Yeah, Jeffrey, thanks again for doing this. It's super helpful. And I think we've talked about this before in the past, but I just kind of want to bring it up again. One of our programs falls under the HCBS Final Rule Guidelines, but it's a children's program. So what, every time we have these trainings, anything that I look up online for this, it's all geared toward employment and adults. So it's very like tricky trying to navigate the waters of having a children's program, an 028 program that falls under these guidelines, and kind of like what's the advice for that, right? And how we would make sure that we're following those guidelines, being that it's an after school children's program.
Right. Where I would start is, there are the 10 HCBS rules, and 1 through 5 are for day services, and then 1 through 10 are for day and residential. So if you're residential service provider, you got to follow all 10. Day service, it's the first 5. I would go back and look at those first 5 and look at each one of those. And you may need to do some interpreting a little bit, because some of the stuff about like independence and privacy, you're still dealing with minors. And they're under their parents' rules, basically, and you need to get, some permission from families and from, those people, or if they're in foster care through the human services system. So, look at those 5 rules and say, okay, how do I interpret this specifically to a children's facility? And then what I would suggest that you do then, once you come up with your interpretation, is get a hold of Leslie and me, and let's discuss them, and let's make sure that what your interpretation is fairly consistent with what because regional centers are the one who's going to come out and evaluate you at some point and look at it. So let's get on the same page. And the same thing for any of you. If you guys are making changes to any of your program designs, or you're saying, wait a minute, I'm not sure how this one affects me, or also, there are specific rules that may not really work for one of your clients, and there are ways you can deal with that through the individual program plan process. When in doubt, get on the phone and give us a call, because to make a decision independently and then have us come out and say, you didn't do that right, is in the long run, it's not going to do you any benefit. To call and have us share with you, wait a minute, you did a great job, that's perfect, or no, that really doesn't meet the spirit of the rule. Let's try to modify this some over here so that it's a little bit more consistent with what the feds are asking us to do, will really work to your advantage. So, Curtis, a long answer to your question. Go back and look at those 5 and say, how do these pertain to each to a child's service? And I think you're going to have to do some of that work yourself, because I haven't found a lot out there that's specific to children, because it's mostly geared towards adults. It just happened that you by the luck of the draw, how that service got vendored, put it into a category that put it into HCBS waiver.
Oh, thank you, Jeffrey. And also, is this going to be on the website as well, this training, along with the other ones?
Yeah, we're trying to put all of ours, all of our recordings on the website. For those of you who are new, if you go to bakersfieldarc.org, you will come to our website, and up at the top left-hand corner, there's something called HCBS Bootcamp. Earlier this year, we did a series of trainings, kind of like somebody going into the military and they go through a boot camp. We did a boot camp, and we just decided to keep that name, so we have that out there. If any of you went to the Tom Pomerantz training back at the end of July, early August, all of the 6, we took one of the days and we put it into 6 sessions, so they're each an hour long. If you want to get training for you or your staff, you're more than welcome to use those trainings. There's a whole bunch of material that we've got out there. This is all part of the grant that Bakersfield ARC and the Kern Regional Center work together on and will be continuing to work on. The grant has been extended for 2 more years. And so starting October 1, this grant will be continuing. I will not be the person in charge of the grant. I will be sort of behind the scenes. I'm semi-retiring now, but I will still be doing these communities of practices and the monthly webinars and the newsletter. So I'll be doing some work in the background, but there'll be a new coordinator of the program here at Kern Regional Center. I mean, at Bakersfield ARC, and Leslie will still be the liaison from Kern Regional Center. And Valerie Gomez will be here at Bakersfield ARC, will be the person working here. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time today. And again, if you want continuing ed, let us know. Bye-bye now.